Here is Missouri Senate candidate Eric Schmitt, who was one of the Eric monolith that Donald Trump endorsed and left it perfectly vague in his primary. It was two Erics facing off, and Trump just endorsed Eric in all caps, one of the funnier moments in American politics this year. But Eric Schmitt won out. He was the Eric that had not been very credibly accused of sexual assault in a graphic manner. That, that other Eric, what was his last name? Greitens? Yeah.
Greitens, yeah.
Greitens. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Trump's semi-daughter-in-law, was heading that campaign. But Eric Schmitt won out. Still a terrible guy. Here he is on Newsmax talking about Dr. Fauci's retirement, which, again, nobody in liberal media cares about. But everyone in right-wing media can't stop talking about how liberal media and liberals are devastated by this. I haven't heard anything on this front, but it's more convenient for them to have a caricature of the left than for them to actually represent it. And here's Eric Schmitt saying there needs to be fallout from Dr. Fauci's whatever.
News again, the nation. As we know, Dr. Anthony Fauci has testified before congressional hearings in the past. If Republicans are able to take back the majority control in either the House or the Senate here, what do you think might be different this time around? Could there be a different outcome when it comes to the line of questioning?
Well, for me, I think we ought to have Iran-Contra-like primetime hearings, and because these issues destroyed livelihoods.
Let's pause it 1 second.
What Anthony Fauci.
The thing about Iran-Contra is all the important people got away with it.
I know.
Right? Like, what do you mean?
And why? It's just odd for him to use Iran-Contra when we've had talk about, I would imagine his go-to would be Benghazi.
Well, I mean, that didn't really have the effect that...
but neither did Iran-Contra, right?
I mean, it at least embarrassed people's reputations a little bit. But, I mean, yeah, like, it's still, again, like, not real accountability. And, I mean, I would like Eric Schmidt's opinions about Iran-Contra. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
I mean, a massive, like, complete get away from or get out of jail free card from Ronald Reagan, and many people who went on to populate the Republican administrations after Ronald Reagan. But that is a bizarre comparison. Let's go.
In my heart, I was telling the truth. Subsequently, it turns out I was making shit up, but I still think I was telling the truth about it. That's what happened at Iran-Contra.
Damn, you went to a nasally place with your Reagan impression. I didn't expect that. It was good.
That's the Reagan I got. It's a little bit like male Pelosi, but here's more of this.
Fauci did. He shut down businesses, destroyed the dreams of small business owners across this country, forced children to wear masks in school in the face of science. You have a loss of learning issue. You have emotional and psychological harm because of that. And this whole thing was about power and control. It was never about the science. And we should have never given, in any way, shape, or form, these kind of bureaucrats who are not accountable to people the ability to do this. This COVID tyranny was wrong. And there's a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and not by the Democrats who wanted to give them a free pass and a pat on the back. I think there's, when Republicans take over, we ought to be serious about this. The American people deserve it.
So when Republicans attack bureaucrats, what they mean is they want, whenever their guys get in power, to be able to act with impunity without the restraints of, say, experts in their field who give medical advice. Like, the thing about Anthony Fauci is that he had absolutely zero power to enact anything, and that was displayed regularly during the worst parts of the pandemic before we even had vaccines, which was Donald Trump listened to his advice, essentially gave him a middle finger, told him, I'm not going to follow it. And there was extensive reporting on it at that time. And he did what he wanted to do. Fauci serves as an advisory role. And I mean, the last time people writ large were talking about Anthony Fauci was at least a year ago. And like, I am just shocked at how Republicans seem to think that this is something they should focus on and it's a winning issue for them in any way, because like if even Democrats have moved beyond most pandemic precautions, why are Republicans still focused on it as some sort of political win for them? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's like, look, I don't, and we say like nobody really cares. I mean, I saw Mehdi Hassan being upset that the Republicans are, if they take back power, one of the consequences is like they'll interrogate Fauci, and it's like, okay, like fine, like I think like that's part of the job. You might get interrogated by fascists over bad faith stuff. The truth is about Fauci's legacy that he gave basically these types of folks pretty much what they want, especially lately. It was when Trump could have like fired him or something, that he was doing all the pandemic tyranny thing, which again, like this narrative that's being written about what the government did during the pandemic as if it was shut down businesses, also spent a massive amount of money in CARES Act and like giveaways and PPP loans to these companies, way more than you got as a working person. And that's really what they say when they consider tyranny. They'll throw in like, oh, and also people had to wear masks. Like that's it. Also, people had to go to work while the virus is still raging because Joe Biden agrees with people that they need to get their ass back to work. And Fauci was right there with them, lowering the days that you have to quarantine so we can get people back, for the holiday rush. And
well, that's the criticism there too, right? Is how that affected the guidelines that, once he did have more autonomy and Biden was like, I'm going to let the scientists do their job. That's when I think the criticism towards him is a bit more valid. Like, I am sympathetic. Again, I do think he should have resigned under Trump for the message that would have sent. But like, I am sympathetic to the fact that he wanted to still be in the thick of things and influencing policy in the midst of a pandemic where like we had a president saying we should inject bleach and put lights in your lungs. But like,
that's always tough though, because like it also like you because like how do we know you're like the vital thing? We still lost so many people to death from this over other countries, right? Like we have states that have outkilled their citizens at higher rates than countries with multiple times the population. And so like, like what good did it do, I guess? Like I just don't know.
In hindsight, I agree with you.
But you do the point of the clip, I guess, like this is a very small thing to be offering your fucking fan base, right? Like if the Democrats were saying, yeah, we're going to get in charge, we're going to get back in power, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring like Alex Acosta.
We're going to bring, I was about to say Chad Wolf, but that honestly would be a good thing.
Right, but like it wouldn't be the
DHS.
I'd be like, well, what are we doing as far as like, delivering public goods? Like this sort of accountability stuff is fine, I guess, for campaigning and for like making sure people can't get away with certain things. But like, you're gonna promise, I'm gonna go vote so you can interrogate Fauci? Like, yeah, okay.
It's just not relevant with especially conservatives who had been living their lives as if the pandemic didn't exist altogether, making like the avatar for masking their central focus and promise in 2023, because these midterms are that's when they'll pay off for them, is it's odd. And I'm shocked to see some of like the doubling down or like the lag on some of this pandemic stuff. Dr. Oz is another good example of a candidate who ran on medical freedom, and now that's moot and stale, and he's got nothing. So
yeah, I mean, it's an article of faith that like 2000 for among conservative reactionary types that 2000 was government tyranny against small business owners and Democrats burned down cities. Like, and I don't know if you're going to be able to like, you can't run as a Republican unless you basically still believe that, but you also can't win, as you see like Dr. Oz. Like nobody besides people who are ideologically like down these Newsmax, Fox News rabbit holes, like are animated by that.
Yeah, right.